dear viewers, welcome to another episode of Family Focus, where we discuss all things that are affecting our family lives. It could be things from drug abuse, it could be alcohol abuse, it could be divorce, it could be financial stress, it could be your children and parenting. So we cover so much, but every week we bring on a guest, and that guest is an expert in their field, and they talk to us about their expertise, their knowledge, and their experiences. Today I have with me a very special guest, and his name is Abdul Muqit, and he is a SEN coordinator. He's a deputy head teacher. He will tell us a lot about himself. But today's topic is on special educational needs. What is special educational needs? How do we recognize it in the community? And what are the pros and cons of raising the awareness around special educational needs? As some of you may know, and some of you who do have children with special educational needs, we all know it's not easy. But we also know that there's not much recognition within the Asian community. If anything, there's a lot of taboo, there's a lot of stigma around having special educational needs children. So I'm going to go over to my guest. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
So I gave a little introduction on you, but you tell us a bit more.
I think you did summarize it well. My name is Abdul Muqit. I've been a teacher for over 25 years, I believe now. Wow. I've been in leadership for about 15 years, and I have been a SENCO and inclusion lead for 20 years. Yes,
wow.
20 years. So and over the time I've seen lots of changes. I'm also a deputy head teacher, so the responsibilities are quite wide and varied.
Oh, I can imagine. But schools are such a tough place, as much as it's, the primary ground for shaping our future, shaping the children, somebody in leadership, somebody in SEN especially, things must be really tough for you. What's going on at the moment?
Yes, you're right. Tough is a key word at the moment. So the challenges schools are faced with currently, a lot of the London schools, the inner city schools, are affected by falling roll numbers, and that's very much linked to Brexit. People aren't coming to the country as often as they did. We've also been affected by the rents, the hike in rents. Families cannot afford to live in areas such as Newham, Tower Hamlets, Redbridge, so they're moving further afield. So these kind of things are massively affecting our school population. Many schools are reducing in size, and my school included. We're having to do a pan reduction to, the school I'm at is a large 4 form school. We're having to close our nursery, unfortunately, because we haven't got sufficient number of children coming in, which then affects our, it doesn't balance the budgets, unfortunately. Yeah. So we know it's not
children
feasible.
Coming in at nursery is quite key, because they kind of tend to stay and they move on through the rest of the year groups and stuff. 4 form is pretty large for this time and age, because all schools are reducing in numbers. Absolutely. We know the demographics are changing, and with people having less children, really, because when we were growing up, each family had 6, 7 children. Some families had 10, 11 kids. Now you probably at a push 2, 3.
Absolutely, and my family is no different. I'm one of 11 siblings. And I have 3 children. And that's quite typical of my siblings as well. So so we are families are much more nuclear now, much smaller, and all of this impacts on the school population.
Yeah. What's your take on it? Why do you think people are kind of reducing their family sizes now? Like, this is your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be an opinion. So I think it's lifestyle as well now. So families are looking at what they can afford as well, affordability, and
children are not cheap.
Yeah, children are not children. Absolutely. And then families also, it's lots of mums are in employment now, so lots of parents, because of the economic situation, in most cases both parents need to work to pay the rent, to even professionals, you know, they will struggle to make ends meet from, you know, because of a number of different things.
Yeah.
Utility bills, our the rent or mortgage or whatever else
Yeah.
so all the costs have gone massively hiked up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately salaries haven't gone up at the same rate. Therefore both parents are having to work just to make things float.
Yeah, just to make life a bit easier.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Because Amra Zabla Suto Aslam, obviously, where I have there's 6 siblings, and you know, like, my dad could only work. Like, it was fine. We could survive off that one income. But also, we didn't have those additional pressures of, you know, like, when we were kids, we were happy going to the park.
Absolutely.
We were happy to go and kick a football around. We didn't need all these fancy gadgets. You know, children have become so expensive. Like, the demand and the expenses is unbelievable. Yeah. Also, so if we go back to our special topic today, which is special educational needs, what does special educational needs mean? What does it mean to families? And we'll try and do a bit in Bangla if we can to try and make it as...
we chesta kormo.
Okay.
I'll try my very best. So special education needs, so there's 2 things there. So the first is about what is special education needs. So to look at barrier bachchentor development, or whether it's the social emotional development and learning, cognitive and learning development, affect the speech language communication and social interaction delays as well. And, you know, physical sensory delays. So there's different areas, the different categories. So it does initially bachantore hinders their progress and become barriers to the learning. And sometimes they will be really strong in certain aspects of their learning. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily, they may have barriers in some areas, but kuno area tara they will excel and go beyond and be absolute genius in certain areas. So children with autism, for example, they can have photographic memories. Musical, they may be very musical and can see art and be very creative. You know, facts, mathematics.
I was just going to say,
they can be absolute genius. Numbers are all, the way they see numbers is very different to you or I. You know, and they will excel in those areas. But then there'll be other areas that are like difficult to social interaction on your bacha loge mila on your loge mata behavior aspect impact hore kuno shomoy ache tarare kuno environment effect hore noisy hoi jay noisy hoile tar dysregulate hoi jay tara kuno bacha ache tara soke saite pare na to find that difficult. But every child is different. Autism maninaisen they all fall
under the same umbrella.
They, you know, autism the
each
spectrum
case is different, isn't it?
Absolutely. And every bacha journey is a bit different. There are common traits that we're aware of, but then within that bachentor strengths and challenges different.
Okay. We'll come back to that. We're going on a short break. Dear viewers, please stay with us. We are going on a short break and we will come back and continue our conversations on special educational needs. Dear viewers, welcome back to Family Focus, where our topic today is on special educational needs. I have with me my guest today here, Abdul Mukit Bhai, and he is talking to us about his experiences, his knowledge, and what's going on in schools at the moment with special educational needs. So if we go back to where we were having our conversation, so special educational needs, funding, what's going on with the funding?
So the funding is in a big mess at the moment, unfortunately. So the government, they're doing a reform on special educational needs, and part of that reform is affecting, so there's a lot of anxiety around it. So parents are worried about the EAC plan horailai, because that's one of the suggestions.
Is that one of the suggestions?
Suggestions is to remove EAC plans, and funding instead of local authority is to take it to central government. So, and the idea behind that is there would be equity in the distribution of funding across all schools, regardless of
which borough they're in our outer London, nothing like that.
And then the other focus they have is on improving practice. So they're looking at training teachers and support staff to a higher standard.
So they can deal with the special educational needs themselves.
Absolutely.
Oh my God!
So they are. I think the white paper should be out 2026, but we can't hold our breath because they're already quite delayed in the process. So the idea is by 2028 things will look different.
Oh my God!
You know, sometimes
that's a lot of pressure for teachers.
Absolutely, there is a lot of pressure on schools. As I mentioned earlier, the falling roll numbers means that schools are balancing that with the growing SEND numbers, and I am pretty confident that there are, amongst our viewers, there will be everyone will know someone who's got SEND, or someone who's dealing with SEND, whether it's someone in the family, or someone in the community. SEND is, and alhamdulillah, I think as a community we're more open to it now, and we're more accepting of it and understanding of it. We've still got some way to go. But the challenge is for the schools is to support those children effectively. Because falling roll numbers means the finances are affected. So every child comes with funding, and these are neurotypical children. They have a certain amount of funding. But send children lagi nominal funding that is where every child, there is a bit more money in that pot for those SEND children.
But it's not enough.
It's not enough.
It is not enough, because if a child, obviously me being from school background as well, being the business manager, I see the numbers. So a child comes in with, let's call it, additional £15,000 additional fiber. But £15,000 of maze tara EHCP plan of maze lekha 1-to-1 takhte wibo. 1-to-1 ekta TAU zudi rakhte hoy is at least cost the school £30,000 with on cost.
Absolutely.
With £30,000, £15,000 is funded, but not for the 1-to-1. That's all the elements: speech language therapy, educational psychologist, things like additional resources, specialist equipment, and then on top of it, a 1-to-1. Where are schools meant to find this money?
And that's the challenge. Unfortunately, we are scrimping and
Who's at the top making these decisions?
Absolutely. So I think this is one of the reasons why government wants to take control of the funding, to take it to central government to make sure that there is equity in the distribution now.
But that's not going to be fair though, is it? Because someone outside of London, or let's call it up north somewhere, their prices and cost of living is so much less than what it is in London. So a person, like even a TA, if we were to recruit somebody in London, it's going to cost you £30,000. Somebody in outer skirts, north of England, will cost you probably 22k.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the advantage is the Noya EHC plans, in particular in Redbridge where I'm working, 1-to-1 lekhatagana. So it's about the support, it's about the provision. So section E and F of an EAC plan outlines the children's provisions, what the school needs to do to deliver the support that the children need. Now,
But a lot of these children as well, what we see is that their needs are so high, and they're in a mainstream school where they don't have the right support, they don't have the right knowledge, or experience to support children like that. And these children are so high in their needs that they do need a one-to-one. Like if you leave them for a second, they'll be climbing the wall. They've disappeared or they endanger themselves and other people.
Risk to themselves, and we have seen a massive growth in that. And as a school, the school I'm at, we are we are a mainstream school. We do have an additional resource provision. We have 14 spaces for children with ASD, and they allocation the local authority for a SEN panel. Learning is, although they're mainstream, the learning is a bit different.
It's a bit different.
Yeah, so tara is more sensory-based learning, and tara classroom access with about 25% on average. And then zera bacha farayar beshi amra increase hori. So that's the idea behind it. Now, that was the original setup from the local authority. I would say about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And we have so many children with high needs that we've had to, in our school in particular, we have 4 additional spaces, areas, we call them hubs. And we've had to create these spaces because these children have such high needs that, bless them, they will not cope in the mainstream classroom. They become dysregulated, they become...
It is overwhelming for them. If there's 30 other children sitting there and the teacher's presenting you something, their needs is different.
So when if you think of a child, even in just year 2 child, they're working on the year 2 curriculum. And then you've got a child who's got learning difficulties and they're working well below, they're at they could be at the engagement level where literally they're pre-verbal children, they're not talking yet. So that learning gap is huge. Now, the expectation the teachers are going to pitch their learning for both
groups.
And that's just 2 children I'm talking about. In a classroom, on average, there are 13 children. Each child will have their own needs. Kuno bacha se EAL, new to the country,
English isn't their first language.
English is first language now. Kuno bacha se, there might be slight delay, gaps in the learning, poor attendance. There's a number of different factors that impacts children, and
the teachers already have their challenges with a class of 30. Tishta bacha, tishta family, 30 different lifestyles. Obviously they're already overworked. I think that. I'm truly saying that. I hope I don't get in trouble for it. But I do think they're overworked. And if they're then being given a child with special educational needs, I think, 1, it's really unfair on the teacher. 2, it's really unfair on the child because they're not getting that one-to-one attention or the right sort of attention that one person could give. Or even if it was one person between 5, they can still give them more than a class of 30. I also think it's really, really unfair on the class because for that one child, their learning is disrupted. For that one child, they are also being pulled back. I totally understand in equal opportunities and giving everybody a fair chance. But if we see these problems and we see a child needs a different kind of teaching, they've taken away all our special schools.
Absolutely.
Even in Tower Hamlets, we had a special school for children with behaviour. They have their autism, they have their ADHD, ODD, you name it, every single label you can think of. But the main problem was their behavior because of the family background.
Sure.
Putting those children back into a normal school, oh my God, there was chairs flying everywhere. Tara gusauti alle tara chair arokh bachare mari der. Ami amar bacha deina school maze mai khayai tokhri. Do you get it? So it's not fair on other children and their parents.
So the school I'm at the moment, we have a unit there. We call it the Cube, and it is children. Initially, it was set up.
The Cube.
Initially, it was set up for children who were on the cusp of bubbling away. Behaviour needed a bit more attention. SMEH needs. Unfortunately, the needs of the children are much greater than what was initially anticipated. So now, these aren't children who are at risk of exclusion. These are children who have gone beyond that. So a lot of these children, relationships have broken down with the school, with the parents, and so it's have we? Okay.
Yeah, we have. Hi, caller. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello, assalamualaikum apa. Ami Shafiqul Bangla থেকে ভালো আছেন আপা?
ওয়ালাইকুম সালাম, I'm good, thank you. আপনি ভালো আছেন?
আমি ভালো আছি। স্যারকে আমি সালাম দেই ভাইকে। আমি বলতাম স্যার প্রাইমারি স্কুল নিয়া এই যে বোর্ড গ্রেড কিচেনে আচ্ছা ধরে নাও আমরা প্রাইমারি স্কুল গ্রেড বিটনো আছে। গ্রেড বিটনো প্রাইমারি স্কুল টিচার এরপরে লোকাল ওয়েলফেয়ার অ্যাসোসিয়েশনের চেয়ারম্যান এরপরে হাই স্কুলের টিচার, এরপরে মস্কের ইমাম একই গ্রুপের। অন্য যে মানুষের চিলড্রেন আছে তারা ওই স্কুলে নতুনভাবে নিয়ে ভর্তি করতে সুযোগ পায় না। এখানে ওই রেসিলিজনটা আমরা কমিউনিটি বেশি, আমরা পয়সার লোভে আমরা বাচ্চা নেই, আমরা বেশি হই না, আর ইংলিশে এটা নেয় না। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।
It's hard for children to get into schools with special educational needs.
Yeah, and I've touched on that aspect a little while ago. It is becoming more and more difficult because scholain bond horilar tara, and the part of the reform is to expand. So they're talking about expanding the expertise of the teachers. So that therefore there is an agenda there to bring in more special needs children within the mainstream. Now, I am fully in favour of all children and their achievements, and I do this job because I'm very passionate about ensuring the most vulnerable get the best outcomes that possible that we can offer them. But as you explained, there are challenges, there are difficulties, and the challenges affects them. So if you're looking at the central, tara effect hore, mainstream children effect hore. So we have to get a fine balance where all children are achieving, so it's equitable. So it's not, we're not favouring one group over another group. We can't say, like we won't say for race or religion or background. So ability-wise, send or non-send, we have to give them the equal opportunities. But like you explained, the difficulty is managing that. The work it's easier said than done. Now, with the SEND school, so we've almost become an overflow for SEND school. So we have lots of children who
But that just shows there's such a huge need.
They're not mainstream children. With lots of other children we have, a lot of them are waiting for placements at special schools. Now, special schools haven't got spaces. The few that are available, and then that means that these children aren't moving on. Although they're on the waiting list, technically, they could be on the waiting list the whole of the primary schooling, possibly
even
secondary as well.
Even.
Absolutely.
And also now schools as well. So Taragas as a black special needs child, they do have the right to refuse the admission. And I say this with a lot of caution. They have the right to refuse based on not being able to meet the child's needs. They ibachare amra niya amra fartam na support kortam according to the EHCP.
Absolutely. So EHCP is obviously it's a little bit easier because bachar needs is very much defined within section ENF, as I said, and the whole EHC is about the child and what their learning needs are and what the school should be doing to support the child. So like in our situation, so as a mainstream school since September, I have responded back to 37 consultations. So consultation, so parents will local authority look at the EHC develop finalize I would like this school for my child, or I would like the other school, mainstream or parental choice. Parents know their children best. And then the local authority has the duty to consult those schools, and then the schools can say yes, we can meet the child's needs. Or no, we can't meet the needs. And sometimes we can meet the needs, but the funding or the support that they're offering for that child isn't sufficient. So we have to go back and say we can meet the needs if you are able to match this cost. So sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. And sometimes they'll say, okay, we'll do it for a short term, and if Bachar Zudi progress manai is brilliant. Banana Zudi, then at the next annual review, you need to request it. So it's a lot of pressure on schools.
It's a lot of pressure on schools because it's such a messy game. Because what it is if you take a child in with the additional funding, let's say for one term, term of Damranisi, O term bacha settle gise achieve horer, and then next term tara no, I'm not funding ditam vartam na. You are stuck as a school, as somebody who's looking at it from a business point of view. You cannot then just say to that child, sorry, you can't come to our school anymore. Absolutely. We don't have a space for you anymore, because you are looking at the best interest of the child. But because of funding, essentially for money, the school's pressure is then up. But we also see a lot of teachers who are going through a lot of difficulty because when we were in school, honestly, like one class maybe had one child with special educational needs. Now, in a classroom of 30, there's at least 12 with special educational needs at different levels. and you're asking one adult to handle 30 children
Absolutely.
with different levels.
Just to give you an idea of the challenge that we're faced with, I'm not at school law, just in year one, 16 EHC plans across 4 classes now. And these are very high needs children.
Yeah.
So, there is a lot of pressure on the teachers.
Why is the high needs going up? Is there anything out there that's telling us this is why it's going up?
People say there's overdiagnosis as well, things that, and better understanding of children's needs. But having been in the game for a long time, I think it's more than that. I don't personally know why, but it's definitely because of the...
Is it something they're putting in our food?
Possibly. So some of the E numbers, aren't, I mean, they do say, mothers are a lot older now than they used to be because, people are pursuing careers, jobs and things like that. So, women are getting married, or men and women are getting married later, and they're having children later. So that contributes towards some of those challenges. The other thing...
Literally, because this was one of my questions, but since you've said it, I'm going to come out. A lot of people, especially in the Asian community, একটা বাচ্চার যদি special educational needs থাকে, কোনো disability থাকে, straight away তারা মার দুষ, বেটির উপরে দুষ যায়. Whether they're young, old, educated, non-educated, দুষ যায় বেটির উপরে. Never ever বেটাইন্তর দুষ. Where is the DNA for special educational needs?
Research actually shows that the carrier is the man.
Well, there we go.
Gene carrier.
And I asked you that because I know the answer, but I wanted it to come from the expert here.
And the sad thing is I see lots of these families where the children, because it's not just the education, it's the social care side of things. As being part of our safeguarding team, I deal with lots of parents where families are breaking up. Ma bafar bitre problem or dads aren't coping with the child, with the situation, or unhappy, or they're leaving, or something. So, I mean, having any child is difficult. Raising children is difficult. But when you've got a child with SEND, it's even harder. Unless you work together, it's unfair. And I will vouch for our women here, because I think our men, we need to break away from our traditional cultures of that's the woman's job to raise the kids. But the woman is also doing the man's job. We've got to take that into consideration. And raising kids...
A lot of women are working now.
Absolutely.
As well.
It's very few women these days who aren't working. Whatever the job is, they are doing it. They're contributing towards the family income. Now, men, even if they're not, a mother who has had a child all day, or...
They need respite.
They need respite, and the dads need to take over and have some compassion and care and understanding for the situation.
But then we go to the wider families, right? So sometimes what we see in the Asian communities is that beti zudi ugoro take and beta khamozain khoiba beti ugoro boya arkita khorai. What else are you doing? Kuchuto khoraina. But bacha ekta rakha fala, boro khora gor randa bara cleaning khoto zator khamase, right? Even to the beti asta din goro boya rest khore. That's her time away from the child.
Absolutely.
Because huruta debla gorain, she's back on full force. But they don't make it any easier.
No, and some of these mums don't even sleep at night. If you've got a child with SEND who's dysregulated and has odd sleeping patterns, I see mums in the playground looking very dishevelled, and we're not judging them. Because
but you can tell.
And when we have that conversation with them, why are you late? In a supportive way, not why are you late. So we hear, they haven't slept all night. Now this mother is operating 100 miles an hour, and the lack of, sleep deprivation is immense.
It affects everything.
I see more and more mothers struggling with the mental health. And one of the things, and I would really urge our community to do, is to accept whatever our children, Allah's given us our children, whatever faith you belong to, our children are our children, they're gifts to us. And however they're presented to us, we see them as a blessing. And we've got to accept that. Yes, we have to support them. Yes, we have to do things differently. But we can't see it as a curse or
But
they do, and it's really sad. And we have to, and the other thing I see often, and I hear, and I have these conversations is, how do I fix them? You're not going to fix
you're
them.
not
You can't fix them. They're not there for they're not broken to be fixed. We accept them, and like I said right at the beginning, they're all very different. We find they're quirky, they're funny, they have personalities, they have empathy. One of the things আগে হইতো না বাচ্চারা children with autism don't have empathy. kind of বুঝে না যখন দুঃখ সুখ বুঝে না আসলে দুঃখ সুখ বুঝে they
It's just
can't
kinda
express
show
it.
it,
They
yeah,
can't
they can't show
express
it.
it.
Yeah.
You know এখন সময় আছে না এখন ফরিয়া দুঃখ ফাইলে বাচ্চায় আসিবো. No, some people won't. I mean, I'd probably laugh as well because watching someone fall over is funny. But our children, bless them, they, the children, with SEN, or autism in particular, they don't necessarily laugh at. They don't know how to react to it. But actually, a matter of fact, it is funny. But it's not. It's the action is funny. The falling over is funny. But it doesn't mean they haven't got empathy. And often we see when a child, in our settings, SEN settings, if one child is upset, others become upset and dysregulated. And that's their way of showing, actually, you know what, I'm also upset for you. I'm upset because you are upset. And not because you've upset me for your crying. So, there's...
They've got their way of dealing with it.
Absolutely. And the more we get to know these children, these young individuals, you see the different personalities, and we just
and as they grow up, things change for them as well.
Changes for them, and they become individuals, and even our most vulnerable, the most needy children, very high sensory needs, they make progress, and their progress is different.
We'll come back to change on children. Absolutely. Dear viewers, we're going on a very short break, and we're going to come back and continue our discussion on special educational needs. Please stay with us. Dear viewers, welcome back to Family Focus, where today's topic is on special educational needs and what does that mean for us as individuals, what does it mean for families, what does it mean in the bigger world and especially in schools. I have with me Abdul Mukit Bhai here, who is a special educational needs coordinator. He is also a deputy head teacher at a local primary school. So we were talking about children, special educational needs and how families are coping, aren't coping. What do you think parents can do to help at home? So yes, there's a lot of pressure on schools, but the child also has a family life. What can parents do to adjust and help that child?
So I think for us initially acceptance. We'd really like our parents to accept and understand that the child's got needs. And it's not,
and that's a scientific need. It's a biological need.
And we're not fixing. We're helping them to cope, adapt. We're helping them to the life skills and to learn. So those things are very important. So once, and I think it's easier said than done, and I understand that, because it is, it is difficult and it's not easy. So that's one of the things. The other thing is, I want to say families can experience a lot of isolation when they've got children with SEND. So schools run coffee mornings and things like that. I know I do it on a half-termly basis, and I encourage all our parents to attend. Again, the school I'm at is very much our community, is the population of the school, and I struggle to get people in, you know, and it's so important that people do go in and they hear and understand what's on offer, because when coffee mornings, schools will have professionals come in and tell you what's on offer, what are you entitled to, what are your children entitled to. You know, those things are really important. And also you get to meet other parents who have
and you can make good friends
lived experiences,
as well.
Absolutely. And you know, although the children's journey is different, but you know, there's things, tips and support that you can give each other, and that's so powerful. So you won't feel alone. You know, you'll feel like you belong, and that's really important. You know, and I know the feeling. I mean, if parents with children with SEND, you know, you're less likely to get an invitation to a birthday party, you know, because all the other
children might disrupt the party.
You know, so the feelings are genuine. When the feeling of the difficult feelings, those emotions are genuine, and we understand that. So this is why, by getting involved in coffee mornings, getting involved with other parents, will help overcome some of those challenges. And the other thing is obviously keeping that good relationship with the school, finding out what the school is doing, what is working. And often, and I know this from experience, you know, we share strategies and things like that with our parents. We don't always see it being kind of carried out, fulfilled and carried out. Zeno Mabafe act on our advice, we do see progress. Because for those children, consistency is really important. So if we implement, I don't know, like a visual timetable, and now and next, it helps them to understand, right, I'm going to, or I like my iPad, I'm on iPad 5 now, I'm on iPad 5 once I have had my dinner or completed this maths task or whatever it is. So that's when they very much thrive on structure. And structure behavior is difficult. And what we find often, because it is the easier option, and you know, whether you got SEND children or neurotypical children,
I know what you're going to say.
we pacify them with devices. So SEND children in particular will spend hours on devices, and actually it keeps them out of our hair, keeps them, you know, we are able to do other chores. And mums and dads have lots more to do at home. You know, it's not just raising, you got the cooking, the cleaning, the
But is there stuff that parents can put on the iPads that is useful for that child then?
Yeah, there are various apps they can do, but within that, even with those apps, it's very important that they have time away from it. And that interaction with the adult is so important, so powerful, because no matter what the child's needs, we're models, we're role models for our children, and the more we interact with them, the more we show how things are, and keeping our language basic as well. And there's nothing wrong with speaking to our children in our home language, and actually having dual language it makes their understanding greater. It expands their vocabulary and, you know, their understanding and the cognitive ability as well. There's research behind that, so that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Some children it's more difficult because they may be pre-verbal, so they may
Okay.
need something like PECS, the picture exchange communication, or they may need, the adults may need to use Makaton signing or something like that
Okay.
to.
But do parents get support in getting that kind of training?
And this is where the challenge is. The support that they should be getting from the different services, parents aren't.
Oh,
And again, it's cuts in services. That's reality what it is. So schools become the hubs for parents. So schools, and when we talk about the challenges in schools, so we are taking on many of those responsibilities our other professional colleagues should be carrying out. For example, our speech and language therapists or our occupational therapist or our physiotherapist, we are doing those. You know, our Doctors Initiative, you know, we have seen a rise in children in nappies still. You know, up until year 2, year 3. And because there aren't, you know, where there were family centres and things like that, families can go to and get the support on how to, you know, wean your child off the nappy. They're not getting them. So schools are having to deal with a lot of these. So intimate care needs is a massive problem. So one of our hubs, we've got 12 children. Out of the 12 children, 9 of them are in nappies. So when you do the toilet rounds and the nappy changes, you know, that impacts on the learning time.
Yeah.
You know,
Impacts on the learning time. And also what I found in my experience is that a lot of our support staff, for instance, who are going into classrooms, they've applied for a teaching assistant role, or they've applied for a special educational needs teaching assistant, a higher level TA or whatever, you know, each school calls them. And then suddenly intimate care comes in and people aren't comfortable with that. And I totally understand that, because it's hard enough to change your own children, let alone somebody else's child, let alone a child who is much, much older. It is not easy. And we have then seen a turn or a spike in absence, because staff absences start going through the roof because people are stressed out, people can't deal with their jobs, and if they don't do it and if they say no, there's a bigger problem. It's people aren't being supported. So what I think is, like, parents aren't getting the training that they need to support their child at home. Forget school, they don't need to worry about schools. Then schools aren't getting the right funding or the training experience that they need to deal with these children. And then teachers are getting more and more, you know, pressurized.
Absolutely.
We cannot hold on to good teachers in schools anymore.
We can't.
Nobody wants to go into teaching.
Absolutely, and I'm in full agreement. I'd like to bring something else in, behaviour. So the number of behaviour incidents where people are being, staff are being hit by children, even at my primary school. 3 weeks ago, I had my glasses knocked off my face twice by a child who was very dysregulated. And the only reason that I had to get involved was this child had taken a chunk out of another child. So I had to keep both children safe. And staff were struggling. And when staff are struggling, I join in, make sure I'm supporting the staff and supporting the children to make sure that care is safe. So when we've got to make that environment safe quickly. So, like you said, furniture being thrown around earlier.
I mean, we couldn't put pencils in front of some of the children because they're so good, these children, at hiding things, right? So they're writing really calm, picked up the pencil, bang, stabbed somebody into the top of the arm. Now, that member of staff is not going to school to get stabbed by a pencil.
No.
You know, they should be kept safe. They should, you know, they have a right to be safe in a work environment.
Absolutely.
Also, that could have been a child.
Yeah. And when we unpick what's going on for that child, the child who's the perpetrator, say, for example, you will find in 99% of the cases that not only is there a special educational need aspect of it, there's also a social care aspect of it. And they've probably witnessed various
domestic abuse, alcohol abuse, drug abuse,
a number of different things. So we call them ACEs. And then these children, you know, when you think about some of the, you know, when you think about children who've got parents in prisons, or you know, or they've witnessed their mother being beaten up, or father being beaten up,
or even
instances.
parents with disabilities themselves, special
absolutely.
educational needs themselves.
Those
become
children
carers.
become young carers, absolutely, and they almost lose their childhood too
Looking
quickly,
after
and then
parents.
at home they're very different. They'll conform, and then all that built up tension and pressure. They come back to school with, and it's a safe environment. School's a safe environment. You know, teachers are caring, so it's an outlet for them. It's not always a safe way to do it, but again, now for these children, especially like with mental health and behaviour, services are very depleted. So I know in
They wouldn't even
Redbridge,
recognise them as any
CAMS,
sort of needs.
you know, when we make a referral to CAMS, it's an 18-month waiting list. A child who potentially is thinking about suicide, you know.
They have to wait 18 months before someone's going to see them.
I mean, by then, you know,
Something could have happened.
something horrible could have happened.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on. So we become therapists as well. We become counsellors. We become everything that isn't out there for them.
Yeah.
And we're not trained to do all of those things, but we try. We endeavour. Schools. I know parents. You know, there's probably parents watching going, "Oh, my school doesn't do this." Every school does to some extent. We are stretched. All the schools are. I'm not here to advocate just for schools. I'm also here for the parents as well, and I get it. Also have sent it within my extended family.
Yeah.
I have a nephew. Bless him, alhamdulillah. You know, he's made lovely progress. He belongs to such a loving family. My sister, my brother-in-law, my nephews and nieces, they really take good care of him, and he's thriving. You know, but he's got lots of challenges. Bless him. You know, but these are, you know, these are the things our families are dealing with. Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult from both parts, really. I can understand a parent's frustration.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my child comes with £15,000 extra money.
Yeah.
Where are you spending that?
Yeah.
Where is it going? I don't see the, you know, the change in my child. But progress with these children is very slow.
Yeah.
You'll see little at a time. It won't be like, oh, we've just pumped £15,000 in and it's a changed child. It doesn't work like that.
No, it does. So the funding is changing now. So whereas, and I know it's in Redbridge, and I'm sure it's in other local authorities as well, on the EHC plan that we're funding this child for 32 and a half hours of SEND support or one-to-one support or 25 hours of one-to-one. That's all gone now. It is, they call it, it's basically just a funding for the school. It's not necessarily for the parents. It's more complicated. It's spine point, level 23. So there is a funding link to it, but it's no longer one-to-one because we have to move away from one-to-one. One-to-one bachare holds them back. So it impacts on their independence. Some children need it and absolutely get that. And there are children within my setting, within our school, that get that one-to-one because they need it.
They need it.
But we are always working towards developing the independence. And I know one of the anxieties parents have is when they've got children with SEND, you know, so that is a very good question. So what can we do for this child to enable them to become more independent? So those life skills and things like that.
It is a really big question for, especially Amra community mother, like for our parents. It's a big question that you know, I've got the wealth and the health to look after my child. What's going to happen to my child? Because like right? Who's going to look after who? What happens to these children then? How are we preparing for that? How can our community prepare for that? Because that's the real question. We're just dealing with today. About future, 10 years, 20 years down the line, what's going to happen to them?
So there is something the government is pushing, and this within the change of the reforms is about preparing our children for adulthood. I mean, you'll hear those terminologies. It was very much a secondary school thing before. Now it's come to primary as well. So there, you know, I know in Redbridge we're looking at a model that we can follow through. We can all kind of, so we will start something in primary. What does that look like in the different year groups, and what that will look like in secondary schools? Because obviously sometimes they're going to secondary school and they're starting and they'll have different starting points. So to make sure that there is some continuity with this, that we are looking at these models. So iktalagi amra yo khoriyar we're looking at developing life skills, independence, and things like that.
And is that for special educational needs as well?
Absolutely. So there is very much focus for those children. So tarari amra kila enable them to function in society, be able to go and do their own shopping, even taking care of themselves in their home, you know, brushing their teeth, putting their clothes on, shower lower, you know, these are all, you know, we take it for granted, but actually very difficult things can be for these children. And one of the dangers we have is, as parents, amra bachchantore we over mollycoddle them. In the sense that amra because we think they can't. Actually, they can. And they're their children, the human beings. And the more we do for them, the less they'll want to do for themselves. So, goro amra practice. There's no harm in doing that. And I suppose to answer your question about what happens afterwards, so some of them can go into employment. There's nothing wrong with that. The government is looking at what they can do to employ young people, school leavers, because it's 0 to 25 DAC plan. What can be done for them to get into employment? It's a hard one because I'm thinking, AI is taking over the work world. Yep. Everyone's struggling, graduates and people with, master's degrees and, PhDs are struggling to get employment. And then we've got children with needs. How will what would that look like? I don't know the answer. So I'll be interested to see what the government is proposing with regards to that. But there's also assisted living. So there are some children or young people can go into assisted living where they are supported. They're supported by a team, but they live in their own flat and they're on accommodation and they function. So where they need that support, they will get that. So social services become involved. So adult social services or children's, depending what their age is, get involved and will support with that. So there is, in this country, there is scope, there is hope. And
they are cutting back on those services as well, aren't they?
They are.
It's a real
worrying.
struggle. It's
worrying, but I don't want to worry our viewers and our parents who may be watching thinking, what's going to happen to my child? Inshallah, hopefully, they will pump some money in because this is a massive dilemma we're in. It's that the country is in a mess with regards to education and SEND in particular. Something needs to be done about it. And it goes back to central government. And let's see what happens. The white paper, when it's released in 2026, what that says, and what changes they're proposing, and we'll be in a better position to see what's anticipate there. What the future holds for us.
Yeah, it is like a big worry because I think there's some children out there who might have special educational needs and can still function independently, but we have those with severe needs, and then even with assisted living. Someone will come in and help you maybe cook and clean, but are they safe even to just be on their own? So what happens with them? It must be a big worry for the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And those children go into residentials.
Right.
So when sometimes even with the parents around, those children become very challenging. Or I say children, young people become very challenging and hard to, and they can be a risk. And they can be a risk to themselves as well. So if there are parents out there who are struggling, it isn't neglect, it is not giving your child away, it's not giving up. It is so important to put your own, there's a saying, you need to put your own oxygen mask on before you can put theirs on. It's on the plane. When we're flying to Bangladesh, on Bangladesh Biman, it says put your own mask on first before you do your children. Because you have to look after yourself. You have to make sure you are physically and mentally and emotionally available and strong.
In order to help somebody else.
In order to help someone else. So, and sometimes, when you go down that route, it's not a sign of weakness. It takes a lot more strength to put yourself in that position than it does not to. So it's obviously case by case, it's very different.
It's different.
And it needs to be looked at separately.
We have a lot of parents that have come over and English isn't their first language. And so there's not a lot of awareness around autism and ADHD and things like that. They don't know where to get the support. They are pretty much just turning up with their children to school and picking them up, and that's it. You don't really hear much from them. What could we do? If there's people around us, for instance, I'm not even talking about family members, there's just people around us, we know that they've got a language barrier. What could we do to support them? So,
as you said, schools are actually the best place to have that conversation, and often schools will identify school assessment horbos, and sometimes what happens is it might not be straight away if a child is new to the country, so language barrier. So
you can't recognize the pattern.
We can't unless it's very obvious. We allow time for them to settle in and absorb the language and start getting used to the following those basic instructions, and very quickly schools and teachers start understanding if there is a need. So what would be helpful if parents, if they're concerned, that they do speak to the school and just say, look, I know my child doesn't speak English, and alhamdulillah, lots of schools nowadays the staff represent our community.
Yeah.
Myself, you know,
You don't need an interpreter.
You know, although my Bengali isn't or my Sileti isn't great, my Bangalish or my Urduish, whatever it is, depending
You can just about stitch it
I
together.
stitch it together. I can, you know, I'm not one that shies away from, and I know lots of staff won't shy away from speaking in the home language. You know, if there's a member of staff, whether it's a support staff, a teacher, whatever, speak to them, let them know what your concerns are, and share that. And you know, and these days technology as well. You know, if you struggle to speak to the school, you know, if you're in your home language, use AI to translate, Google Translate your concerns into English, and send that as a letter to the school.
I want to touch on the topic of safeguarding. So where a lot of special educational needs children can't communicate or show their emotions and things, how are we safeguarding them, or kind of knowing what's going on at home, for instance, because they can't show their emotions, they can't talk about it?
Our SEND children are seen as our most vulnerable children. So obviously, you know, there's more vigilance. So our children communicate via changing behavior and changing emotions. So when Chazatku, you know, becomes overly emotional, or we see, you know, some behavior change, we question that. And we don't question that because it's called professional curiosity. We're not pointing fingers, we just want to know. So parents as they came, well, has anything happened? You know, have you noticed the change? Blah, 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 blah. The other thing is obviously neglect can be an aspect of it. And we take it with a lot of schools are sensitive and understand that children with needs are difficult to, they can be quite stubborn about what they wear. So if they've got a particularly, they've got a favourite top, they'll wear that every day. It won't allow the mum to wash it. So if there is a little bit of that, we understand that, but it needs...
Let's come back to that, Sorry, we're going on a short break. Dear viewers, please stay with us and we will see you after the break to continue our conversations. Thank you. Dear viewers, welcome back to Family Focus, where today our topic is on special educational needs. I have with me my guest here, Abdul Mukit Bhai, and he is a specialist in special educational needs, and he's a deputy head teacher in a local primary school. So we were talking about our children and how it affects the families and the life, just not for the children, but everyone around them. Okay.
Absolutely.
So while we were on break, we had some good conversations that our viewers didn't get to see, unfortunately. If we're going back to sort of our families and special educational needs and taking them, let's say, back home, because that's what they do call it. It's really degrading, but they call a special educational needs child crazy. What's your take on that?
So my recommendation would be, and is the acceptance, understanding our children are wired differently. It's a biological thing. It's either a gene defect or whatever it is.
Gene defect or gene defect?
Gene.
Which one?
Gene is the biological gene, not the gene. Bless. Yeah, so please don't misquote me. So we need to make sure that we are. And again, there's been a rise in, again, it's not just the hocus pocus side of things, it's also medical side of things. And we've seen a rise in Redbridge in particular, where families are taking the children abroad for medical treatment. And all people are doing is they're basically making money out of people's anxieties and worries. So they're giving them false hope, and then they're taking their money. They're businesses, you know, and there are people that operate and do things. Certain things are illegal in this country because there's a reason behind it. We are lucky to be here. There's lots of regulations about, whereas other countries, even some other European countries, there aren't as many regulations. So I see that. So when something like that comes up, we hear from a parent, "Amar bachara loya zayarami Poland for a treatment," and they'll stop being autistic. Then we have to let social services know. We have a duty to let them know. So immediately it becomes a MARF, a multi-agency referral, which then, you know, the social services will intervene. And it's not because we don't like the family, it's because there is a legal duty for schools to do that. So if we don't do that, we're in breach of the law. So parents need to understand that. And again, Ruqya, again, I'm not an Islamic scholar or anything like that at all. So my very basic understanding around that, Ruqya comes from the parents, from the heart. It doesn't have to be
Quranic.
It's Quranic. There are
what's in the Quran, and that's it. There's nothing else.
There's no there's no need for anyone to sell you taweez or water or hocus pocus or whatever it is, because it's highly ineffective. You know, and the challenge is if you start believing.
If anything, it's probably like mentally, it's you know, a bigger strain on the families and that child, because they're not understanding what's going on. They're seeing this person hovering around them or doing something to them or giving them something to eat or do, or some new sort of structure, because a lot of these people give you structure, like, oh, if you do this at this time and that at that time it will work, and you know, that child is then having to absorb all that in as well.
No, absolutely. And one of the other damaging things and worrying things is there's violence used as well against these children. So, Maria Butsare, it literally is that. Where I know our parents used to probably say that to us, but they probably had a justified reason to say that. But these children, they're innocent. They're the fristas. No matter when a child with need, if you're looking at it from an Islamic perspective, from an Islamic angle, even as an adult, the child, that person is still a child because their mental age is of someone much younger. So, alhamdulillah, they're blessed. You know, so we've got to accept that. We've got to.
And looking after somebody with those kind of needs is
a blessing in itself.
It's a blessing in itself.
It's a, you know, if you, you know, they will drag you to Jannah, inshallah. So we've got to see them as a blessing, and you know, beating the autism out of them or ADHD out of them does not work. Will not work. If you want to do Ruqya, you know, I'm all for that as well. And if you think it works, you know, people will, you know, do it the right way. And that doesn't involve Islam. Is, you know, we're going off topic slightly. Islam is it's a peaceful, religion. Safe religion. It doesn't advocate that. Children are very much loved in Islam, you know, and valued and respected. So, you know, if you are thinking, or someone's given, you know, we got any of our viewers, someone said, oh, if you know, you take them to so and so, they'll make your child better. Be very skeptical. Ask lots of questions, and you know, think twice, because it's emotional. People, they prey on your emotions. They're very clever. They're very good salespeople, because they'll tell you about the 100% success rate, or someone, you know, they'll show you a video of, look, this person wasn't working, and I'll share something with you that came up on, keeps coming up on my Facebook feed, and my TikTok and my Instagram. So I'm with the times at the moment. I'm with the times. I'm with the times. I have to keep in touch with the youngsters. So it's this, they call him the choo-choo or poo-poo fir.
Okay.
And this man, all he does is on the mic go,
oh yes, I've seen that.
so it's all an act. He has someone in a wheelchair.
And they start walking.
And he's got lots of devotees. And then he'll go up to them and he'll mumble something, hocus pocus, and then he will blow, and then we go quite loudly. I can't do it personally. And that person then miraculously gets up from their chair and starts walking. And the people around, bless them, they're believing this to be true.
Because they're playing on people's vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
And you know,
and people are looking for a solution. They're so desperate for a solution. They want things to be better.
Yeah.
And they're willing to go that extra mile if they have to. You know, we've heard of people selling land and things like that, like literally coming out onto the streets to pay for these people.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
it's a biological thing. They need to understand that, especially back home as well. You have a lot of children with special educational needs, and nobody understands it. They just say, "Oh, gufagol."
Oh, yeah. And you're absolutely right. I'm not I'm not support Hortam, develop Hortam. We do invest in them. We have to invest in them. We've got to make sure that we are accessing the right people in the right level of support. Because the last thing we want to do is cause more harm, you know, and distress to the child, and distress to the family, because it's not going to work. So we live in false hope. So, you know, I will keep coming back to that terminology. We have to accept. We have to understand that this is, you know, this is the card I've been dealt with. This is the child I've been given. It's a blessing. It's hard. It will be hard. Yeah. You know, and I'm sure there are many parents sitting there watching, thinking, my child hasn't got sent, but they are driving me absolutely mad. They do. They challenge. Children challenge us. They are our blessings. They are also our challenges as well. You know, and we raise them well in most cases. Despite that, they can choose the wrong path. But that's again a different topic for another day. But just, you know, we've got to compare. They're individuals. They're human beings. They have feelings. They have emotions. And they have personalities. And
also the other thing is they are out in the world in their school lives. So whatever their peer pressure is around them, they're probably reflecting that at home, and their behavior becomes worse. Or, you know, some people become, you know, they isolate themselves and they don't want to talk about it and things. But it's really important that you have that open and transparent relationship with your children, because within our community itself, we also have that issue of, oh, you're too friendly with your child. But Abdul Mukid Bhai, thank you so much for coming to my show. It was lovely having you.
It's
These conversations could go on all night. Like, even in between break, we had so many conversations.
Hadn't stopped, have we?
No, we haven't stopped. And I think a lot of those topics our viewers would love to hear about. So inshallah, we'll have you back on, and we'll bring some of those to our viewers. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And dear viewers, thank you so much for staying with us and being a part of our show today. We are going to bring to you another topic, another subject, another expert on things that we deal with in our family lives and things in the community. Thank you so much for your support. Continue supporting us. Press that share button on Facebook and get us going, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.